How y'all doing? It's a new week. Gonna start a new project. This week we're gonna be working with scraps. I think I've got enough saved up to create something here. It's gonna be a very simple quilt. I'm gonna put a picture right here for y'all to see as I'm talking about it. So it's just gonna be 2.5-inch squares. I'm working with 2.5-inch because I know a lot of y'all have jelly rolls, charm packs, layer cakes, things like that you've bought. Some of you have yardage, fat quarters, whatever. But 2.5 inches kind of fits everybody's wheelhouse, I guess you want to say. It's going to be a gradation, as you can see. And I had several thoughts on this. I thought about a watermelon. I thought about lemons. I was thinking summer. I thought about, I don't know, just summer colors, just, blues and purples and pinks, flower garden, something like that. But I ended up settling on beach. So as the picture shows, I started with the dark blue further out into the Gulf or the ocean or just the lake, whatever. And then working your way in towards your beach to get a little lighter, have some sandish colors, and then a little darker sand as you move closer up where we live here in America. Most of the time it leads up to a parking lot of some sort. So my thought train was beach. So that's what I'm going to work with. I have a list showing you what I cut. The sashings are cut 2.5 by 6.5. I needed 71, and I've already cut them out of just pure white fabric, no color to it. I did try it, kind of play with making the sashing colors too, and it was pretty, but I thought it was just a little overpowering. So the white really caused it to pop, and so that's why I chose this. Okay, I'm gonna set those on the side. I've already cut those. Now, my outer border, I want to be a dark color. I'm probably gonna use this one, but once I get it together, it's a possibility I may use this one. I'm not sure. I guess it just kind of depends on how my colors fall out. And then whichever one I don't use, if I don't use this for my borders, I will use this for my binding. If I use this for my borders, I'll probably use this for my binding. And I could use it binding on this too. I just kind of like the way that looks. So, but then this is kind of watery. So we'll just see how that falls out. I'm just going to set this aside. I'm not going to cut this yet because who knows, I like to change things around and I might get halfway through it and decide I don't want blue around it. Okay, next. So this is my scraps. I keep them in pizza boxes and iron flat because that's just the way that it works for me. I like my scrap kind of flat and to the point. So let's just find the one marked blue, which is here. I don't know if I have a lot of blue scraps, but whatever I have, not something that's got something attached to it, but I'm going to go through, and if I have any blue in here that can be cut into 2.5-inch squares, I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to use it. Now, if I don't have enough, I will go to my stash and pull blue. If I don't like a color such as this Hollywood stuff here, I would not put that in my water quilt. So some of this may be eliminated based on that. But I got a little bit here. Looks like that might be a stack there that can be used. This could be a transitional up near the beach, so I'll pull that. I feel like this is a little flowery, but it might be okay. Let's see. These are all too small. Those are all too small. Not appropriate. That's too narrow. Here we go. I'm not sure. I'll have to measure these. Those might be all right. So I'm just going to pull anything I think that is close to 2.5 inches and see how it falls out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I will grab something else. Now, let's see how big these little blocks are. These are 2.5 inches. Those might make nice transitionals, but I'm not going to go with that because, well, I kind of want to do just whole blocks. I don't really want to be bothered with pieced blocks. But that, you know, in your quilt, you do you. You want to use piece blocks? Perfect. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do with your quilt. Unless they're paying you. That's a different story. Okay, guys. So this looks like all I've got to work with my, I don't know how wide that is. I don't think that's wide enough. Nope. 2 1/4. Okay. So it's going to take a little time to sit here and cut these blocks up. And all I'm going to do is I have a 2.5-inch ruler and I have a turntable. So I'm just going to grab this, find me a straight edge. If I don't have one, I'll cut one. And I'm just going to cut them up as much as I can into 2.5-inch pieces. And that's all I'm doing. So I like the blue more than the purplish. So I'm going to go ahead and use this side. Since this is a 2.5-inch ruler, I don't really have to worry about, you know, oh, I don't think I cut that straight at all, y'all. There we go. And then I can just use my little mat to turn it around. Cut the other side. And there's number one. I think I need close to 90 blue pieces. And then from there, I will start adding other colors. I will have blue, kind of aqua teals leading into the beach. I will have beiges, grays, light browns, tans. Then it'll lead to just a little bit of edge of a darker, as you can see, top to bottom. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do here. I'm just going to sit here and start cutting it. When I get some stacks cut of different colors, what I'll do is I will take it to the design wall and start laying it out and playing with the colors. See if I need a little more of this, a little less of that, and just let it come together. And this is going to be simple. If you've never made a quilt before, it's not a problem because this is just sewing 9 patches together. So guys, I will see y'all after I get all this fabric cut, and that might be a couple of hours. I hate cutting. I don't know why, I just do. All right, guys, see y'all later. Okay, guys, I just wanted to stop in for a second, show y'all I finally got everything cut, my sashing, my blues, my teals, my beiges, my grays, and my browns. So I'm fixing to head over to the design wall and start playing with the color. So all day yesterday it took me to do this, but I think it came out just beautiful. I love the color play. I love the gradation. Everything in here was scraps. If it was not a scrap in my scrap box, I went through my fat quarters, my stash, and I opened up pieces of fabric because I used to have a bad habit of even if it's just a little piece, I'd fold it up inside my material. And I went through and pulled out all those little pieces that I had folded up over time, or something that might have been cut weird, and I cut off the weird part and put that little piece out here. I think the most repeat I have is I have 6 of 1 or 2 blocks in there. Everything else is either 1, 2, 3, or 4 blocks or less. It truly, truly is a scrappy quilt. Only thing that was bought was the white. It took about 3/4 of a yard to do the white. The rest I have no clue. I cut a bunch of blue, aquas, grays, and browns, beiges, and I just started putting them up on the board. And then I came back and I filled in where I felt I needed to fill in. So I hope you think it's pretty. I think it's just gorgeous. Now comes the sewing part. There's not a lot I'm going to be able to show you with sewing. So let's just talk about this real quick. And then I will film a little bit. And then I'll show you the finished product. Now we have these in between sashing. And I'm going to call them sashing rows. Those will be sewn as a row. And I will just sew them just like I sew any other row. Then we have the blocks here. These are all 9 patches. So I'm going to sew the 9 patches together for each row, and then I'm going to sew the row together. And then I'll sew a sashing row. Then I'll sew all the 9 patches together, and I'll sew a block row. The reason I'm going to do it that way, I mean, do it however you want. Sew all your 9 patches together, sew all your sashing rows together, however you want to do it. It doesn't make a difference. It's your quilt. You do what you want. But the reason I do that is because sometimes I get bored. So this will help keep me from being bored about what I'm doing. It'll be a little variation here and there, and I'll do one like that, then I'll do the 9 patches, then I'll put the 9 patches together. And then it'll just give me a little variation in what I do. And I probably will take some photographs from time to time of it as I'm working it out, because I don't want to mix it up. I like the way it is. And I didn't play with it a lot. The most I did was pull a little more blue. I had a little more blue over there, and I pulled a little, make it a little heavier blue here. I did switch from the beginning. I had brown, beige, gray, beige, and I kind of switched a little bit. I mixed the beige and gray up a little bit more, pushed a little more gray up, pushed a little more beige down. I don't know why I was thinking beige, gray, brown, but I think this way it flows better. So guys, here she is. I'm going to get started on this, and I will meet y'all back here. I'm probably going to sew the first rows together by myself, just sorting it out in my head, and then I'll film it once I get to like this one and this one. I'll film some there to show you. Okay, guys, so y'all have a great day. I'm going to get busy sewing, and I'll see y'all soon. Okay, so I've sewed a couple lines together, and it's going together really easy. Nothing complicated about it. The hardest thing is keeping it organized, and I'm going to show you what I did. So let's start with this row of sashing, okay? So I just got a board, and mine, I have some that are a little longer, and so I just set it up where I had a cornerstone and a sashing, and I went downwards with them. I didn't stack them on this part, okay? It made more sense to me to do it this way. And this is just for transport purposes to the sewing machine. It shrunk quite a bit, you can see, in width. So, and then the last one, I just set down here by itself. And this is how I'm taking it to the sewing machine. Just like that. I'll show y'all what I do with it when I get there. Now, the next part is the blocks. So I thought about how to do this. And the easiest, fastest way was just to stack them. So I just put me a pin in my board to mark the top. And I'm not going to make y'all watch me pick these all up. I'll just show you a couple here. I'm leaving the sashing pieces on the board. I thought this might be a good one to show y'all because if the colors start changing a bit on this row. And I'm just going to stack them on top of each other per row, just like this. And I'm just going to continue stacking this row, and then I'll meet y'all at the sewing machine. Okay, so we're here at the sewing machine. I have my sewing machine set up with a 1/4-inch seam allowance, like always. So to do the sashing, all I'm going to do is sew the sashing to the cornerstone block. And we're just going to run down this line. We'll come back. We'll just try to keep it in order. And we'll just slowly add them together. I'll step in and tell you what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but I'm just going to get to sewing. Now, if you'll notice, we have one left, and we're going to leave it there for just a moment, okay? Okay, so This went in first. This is at the top. So the way I did it was I started with a cornerstone and moved my way down. So I know that this is my corner. I'm going to press everything toward the color. Everything's away from the white sashing. On every single thing, we're pressing away from the sashing toward the cornerstone or toward the 9-patch block. It just depends on what portion we're working on. I'm going to now take this piece and I am going to sew it to the last one to get it in place. Again, pressing toward the cornerstone. Okay, that's how they go together. So the first thing we're going to do is sew this, and then we will sew this. Okay, we'll set this one to the side. Back to that one being the first one. These apart. I'm just finger pressing towards the area that I want it to go. Okay, so this is the first one. This will go here. I'm going to go ahead and add this one to the end. You can sew these together in any order you want to. These are just suggestions of how I did it to try to stay organized. But you may have a much simpler, more organized way. And now we'll take the first section and we'll sew it to the bottom section. And we'll have this entire sashing row sewn. And I know for a fact that this is my corner for this side, and this is the corner for the other side. So now I would at this point take it over to the ironing board and press it really well in the proper direction toward the cornerstones or toward the colors, however you want to do that. But for now, I'm just going to set this aside and we're going to grab this. So remember, I put the pin in it here to mark my top. In order to stay organized on this, I'm going to sew each section together, like these two, and these two. That's the top block. Then I'm going to take and run me a little piece of scrap through the machine. Then I'm going to sew the next section. Same way through all 5 blocks. Again, sit right sides together, 1/4 inch seams. When we finish, we'll have 5 9 patches here. Okay, guys, I'm just going to sew. If I have something important to tell you, I'll step in and speak. Okay, so that marks the end of that first block. Now, I'm not going to sit here and make y'all watch me sew all these blocks like this. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this next section. And then when I get to the end of all 5 blocks, I'll come back. And so doing it this way, you know you need to have 3 in a series, okay? 1, 2, 3. And then a space. If you forget which block you're sewing on, just count 1, 2. So I only have 2 there. So I know I need to do 1 more block to complete that side series. Okay, guys, I'll be back when I get the other 3 added in. Okay, so here we are. And so this will be the first one that I sewed. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose. It doesn't make any difference whether you go inside or outside. Just do every other one. So I did that to the outside. I'm going to finger press this to the inside. And then this one here will be pressed to the outside. Okay, and that will be for block 1. Now, let me cut this off. This is block 2. So, and this one doesn't have to be the same. This one could be inside, outside, whatever. It really doesn't matter. Just whatever works for you or how your fabric wants to fall. You just want to make sure you got them going in different directions so that you can nest your seams when it comes time to sew the whole block together. And I'm just going to stack them, one on top of the other. Now, if you caught that, I stacked them up where the last one was on top, right? So we need to reverse these so that the blocks will remain the way they were originally, okay? So that's how they were originally. Now, we can just put this up here like that. And now we will sew this side to each one of these, okay? And yes, I'm going to leave mine connected. It takes a little more effort, a little more time for me to get them lined up fast. Is not necessarily the best choice for me here, but I want everything to stay in order. And in order for it to do that, I have to change my method just a little bit. Now, guys, if you're not doing as many scrap pieces, if you have jelly rolls and you want to sew them together in strips of 3 and then cut them apart and mix them up, you can do that too. Nothing wrong with it. I just wanted a really scrappy quilt here, one that had many colors, and you see how it flowed, and you know, if any fabric stuck out like a sore thumb. I will admit there's a few I did not use. I did not use some with big Christmas trees on them or kids prints. I just didn't want to do that. Okay guys, so I'm just going to continue on like this until I get to the next step, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, so this time I'm going to be smart and start from the bottom that I just pulled out of the sewing machine. And so since I finger press this to the outside, I'm going to finger press this side to the outside. And I'll finger press this to the inside. And this should go to the outside. And I had that one finger pressed in the wrong direction. And this to the outside. Okay. The only reason I'm stressing trying to keep it in order, I know it's scrappy, but the way I did mine was for it to be the colors to start mixing in the middle of the block. So if I don't keep the blocks in the right place, they won't mix in the right spot, and then it might not look like a beach scene like I want it to look like. So that's kind of why I'm stressing this. But if your blocks are just scrappy or not gradient, not sure if I'm saying that right, then I don't think it'll really matter how you choose to mix your blocks. So that's all the blocks right there. So I know this is the top, and I'm going to mark that in my mind. This is the top, and this is the far left corner. I'm going to take and turn my blocks this way. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a photograph of this quilt up on the wall. So if I get confused, I will go back and reference the photograph to get the block in the right place. But for now, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to leave them attached. And I'm going to start sewing the top. Make sure this part doesn't flip underneath when you go to sew. You won't need to separate the blocks any longer. You shouldn't have a problem with telling where the blocks are now. Okay, one more. Just gonna flip it over, nest it, make sure the top is even on that corner. Okay guys, I'm gonna finish this up. Okay, so this is stacked up with the top. This is still the top. So now we're gonna turn it around where the bottom is towards the sewing machine. And we're gonna do the same exact thing. We're just gonna take them one row at a time. Okay guys, I'm gonna finish these 3 and then I'm gonna go ahead and press the blocks flat. Any direction you wanna press them, because we will be pressing toward the block from the sashing when we add that. And I will meet y'all back here when it's time to add the sashing on the sides of these blocks and make a block row. So what I did was, this is the row we sewed together, this here, center strip. And I put all the blocks back up in order in which I had taken them down. So the next step is to get the sashing sewn on them. I'm going to grab me a board, and I'm just going to start here. And I'm going to stack up one sashing, one block. And then we're going to have one extra sashing for the final side, okay? And now I'm going to go back to the sewing machine. Okay, so this is my far block. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the far side sashing to it. And I'm going to line it up at the top. Then I'm going to line it up at the bottom. Now guys, I know my sashing is right, okay? They were all cut very carefully, and they, obviously this is the first sewing of them. So I'm making my blocks fit my sashing. Okay, so once I do that, I am going to go ahead and remove this block. And like I said, we're going to finger press and then press toward the color, toward the 9 patch, away from the sashing, okay? Now we're going to put this back here because this is where it goes. Now it's just a matter of sewing this sashing onto every one of these. Now, I like sewing it with the sashing on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pin. I'm going to take this off of here and turn it around. But I'm going to put a pin over here. Note, mark this as the top of my block. And I'm going to continue to do that with every one. I'm going to put it right sides together, and then I'm going to turn it around, mark my top. Okay guys, so we're back to our block on the far end. So now we need to sew this to this. Now I'm going to take this pin out. But I still have it marked top here, okay? Okay. And we know these two go together like this. These are our two tops. So I'm going to flip this over like this. We'll sew this along here. Now we know this one is the end, okay? I'm going to just open this up like this so it can kind of lay a little bit flatter. Now, instead of going ahead and sewing this here, I'm going to go ahead and set the first block on. Okay, I know this end. This is this end, so I'm going to sew it together here in the center. Okay, I know this blue flower is at the top, so I'm good on that. And now I'm just going to take this over to my big ironing board, press all seams toward the nine patches, and then I will put it up on the board. Once I get all the second half of the quilt sewn together, I'll show you how to start adding the sashing to the block rows, and then I'll get it all put together for you. Okay, guys, been a long day, but got all this worked out, and I am in love with this colorway. I just love the way it gradiates. I love the way it feels. It feels fresh and clean. I really, really am happy with it. I have a few blocks here and there that I got mixed up when I was sewing, but I don't think it made that much of a difference. I mean, it is a scrap quilt. Who knows, other than the fact that I had the picture on the phone and discovered it myself. So the next step in all this is to start sewing the rows together. So what I'm going to do is sew a sashing row to a block row all the way down. When I get to this last one, I'm going to sew both sashings, top and bottom, and then I'll just start putting them together, and they'll meet in the middle, and it'll all be done. I'll see y'all at the sewing machine in just a little bit. What I've done is I took a sashing row and hooked it to a block row. Now I've done all of the rows this way, and I did take the time to pin at the connections of the cornerstone in the sashings. If you do that, your sashing should line up just right so that you don't have any waviness to your quilt. I'm not going to guarantee mine will be perfect, but I've at least put in the effort to try to make it look that way. So I'm just going to sew each sashing strip to a block strip and continue on the way. If we're getting down to the final part, you don't have to take the time to pin if you don't want to. I just like to have that reassurance, and it makes me feel like I can sew a little faster because I'm not constantly trying to meet the next matchup. Okay, guys, so I'm just going to sew this one with you, and then when I get it all sewn up on the board, then we will look at it, and we'll look at the borders, and I'll determine which one to choose. Okay, let's look at this. You can see right here, I'm a little off, but I didn't let that bother me. Here, these two are the same, but also I never even noticed that until just now. It's just not obvious. It looks like I might be off a little bit off here. I'm not going to go back and redo that. Everything else looks good on this first line, and that's just minimal to me. Nothing to be concerned with. So from here, I am just going to go ahead and sew all my other lines, get everything pressed back up on the board, and I will meet y'all back in a bit. Well, guys, here it is all finished. I went with the solid navy border, and then I used this for the binding. I'm really pleased with this week's quilt. I love that it truly is a scrap quilt. Just a little white mixed with it in border. That was it. As I was filming it, I was thinking, you know, besides just spring and summer, you know, if you had a child that liked a specific color, you could just do a gradation of the color they like. Like my youngest son loved green. He still loves green. And you could just do all kind of greens. Or I grew up in a town where the colors for our football team were green and white. You could do something like that for sports teams that someone loves. Um, you know, if you have a family member who just really, really loves certain colors and you've got some of that color in your stash, you can make a gorgeous gift for them. So think a little bit bigger. A baby quilt, you know, you could do blues, and it doesn't have to say boy or girl. You could do aquas and yellows and whites or whatever it is. Grays. I know grays are a really popular color right now. So just think, what do I have? Who likes what? And who would I like to make something for? And you could just take this pattern and run with it. Now, um, I don't know what I'll do next week, but this was a great one for this week for me. I hope y'all enjoyed it. And, you know, leave a comment below if you have some suggestions or ideas. I thank y'all for subscribing, commenting, sharing. It's all such a blessing to me. So remember to always be yourself. And until next week, be safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.